Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
All right, welcome to today's show. It's Clarence, and I want to welcome you for coming back. This week I have a special guest for you, good friend of mine. Every week we interview people that I feel like are really knocking it out of the park. They're taking charge. They're making a change in the world. And a lot of it is because I want to know, dig a little deeper and see what makes them tick, what gets them up in the morning, what are some of the habits that they have. And I know you want that, which is why you're here today. Well, I have on the call today Jim Moss. He's an executive coach. He's focused on vision, leadership. I've known Jim for several years now, and we've had some great conversations. My man is super duper smart. He's been coaching executives for the last 4 or 5 years, been in business since he was 15 years old. And I didn't know this, but one time we were talking and I was, I don't know if I was telling him I was reading Tony Robbins' Money, and he was like, that book is money. And I'm like, okay, well, turns out he's got a doctorate in stocks and options. And I'm like, all right, well, cool. Beyond that, he's a pastor, founded a church in Tulsa, where we're at in 2009. And they are planting churches all over the world. Serious business. This guy. And I want to welcome to the show, Jim. I want to say it's not Jim Money Moss. It's Jim make Things Happen Moss. What's up, man?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the show today.
Absolutely. So you've got three. I've known you as 320 Coach, and so now it's 320 Media now.
Yeah, so we actually are launching 320 Media today under the website jimmoss.com. So we're super excited about that, and just kind of worked out having the show on today of launch day. So pretty neat.
That is awesome. Well, so tell us about 320 Media and what you're doing.
Yeah, so I established this specifically to help people. I mainly deal with entrepreneurs and executives, on a daily basis. That's who I'm coaching, typically one-on-one and things like that. And so I just wanted to open up some of the tools that I have available, some that we've created, some that I've partnered with, to just help people in the broader market. And so that's what we've done. And so you can actually go to my website, jimmoss.com, and even purchase one of these tools right now. And so that's exciting for us to launch that today.
That's cool. I know when I've worked with you and really had some realizations in my life through working with you. I know that had to be kind of I don't know if it's funny, but sitting on your end, seeing me come out of my my shell and realizing what you were taking me through. But actually trying to figure out, let me tell the audience how this happened. I'm trying to figure out how to live out my dreams and what I'm here for, because in the beginning of, I don't want to say life, but adulthood, it's just like, well, how do I eat consistently? I just want to make a living. Well, then after you get some level of success, I don't know if this happens for a lot of people, but I was like, there's got to be more. And so that's when I came to you. And you took me through a series, coached me through finding out how to live out my dreams, which actually this podcast is part of. So, I mean, like, what are the advantages that you see for these entrepreneurs, these executives that you're coaching?
Yeah, so much of it is just learning to lead yourself incredibly well. I think we get to a place in life where, especially with my audience that I've kind of been leading and coaching is, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of success, and so they really don't need a lot, per se in life, but they're still not really fulfilled because money doesn't bring fulfillment. It's like you can get, the nicest house and car and all that and just be miserable. But you have things inside of you that, are driving you, and things that you're like, man, I've always wanted to do that. And so that's where true purpose and fulfillment comes from, investing your life in others. And even I know, like when we were looking at your story, I was like, man, there's so much here that you need to let out. And I think there was some caution there of like, man, I just don't know about, letting people know that. Right. And I was like, man, I said, this is powerful. It's like your backstory is what, that's your future. That's how you're going to be used to, change people's lives.
Yeah, that definitely. And that brings up some of the, some of the myths that probably people have when it comes to following their dreams. What are some of the myths that you hear all the time? Yeah,
I think a lot of it is just, being uncomfortable with their story, one, because that's your connection point of just who you are, what you've been through. So many people say, what if I fail? I'm not ready. It's too hard. What will people say? This is really mine, to be real honest, is what will people say if I put myself out there? Because, like we're doing a radio show. I can't take back the words that I'm saying today or the website that I've put out. It's like it's there forever. And so that was a great fear of mine of what are people going to say? What if I get it wrong? And ultimately, you just have to say, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And I believe this, we were created to create. And when we don't do that, we truly kind of just spin in this endless cycle of misery.
So you help people through this, and I know that there are some misconceptions about hiring or working with coaches. What are some of those that people have?
Yeah, I think a lot of people just naturally say, why would I need a coach? That sounds really silly to hire somebody to help me figure out, what I need or, direction. And one of the honestly big misconceptions that I get a lot is, why should I hire you? You know nothing about my industry. And I smile and I say, you're exactly right, but I don't need to. Because the greatest thing that I can do for you is help you understand yourself and create a clear vision and path forward. And when you figure that out, you're going to be a better leader. You're going to be a better business owner. You're going to be a better father. You're going to be a better mother. And it just changes every aspect of your life. And so our greatest obstacle is always the person that's standing looking in the mirror every morning.
You talked about the fears that we have. What are people going to think? I don't have enough time. Will it work? I mean, how do you get over that? Is it as simple as just doing it?
Yeah, I think there's some key things. And so I talk a lot about this, is there's two intentional moves that every person has to make. And so the first one is we typically surround ourselves with interest-based relationships. And so what's one of your hobbies, Clarence?
I'm really weird. I like to go to marketing conventions.
Cool. So, say that's all we ever talk about. The next marketing convention. And so it's just an interest-based relationship. There's nothing further. There's nothing deep. And so the first intentional move that you have to make is you have to surround yourself with community. And so these are a group of people that are helping you move forward, whether this is in business or faith, it doesn't matter. You have to have an intentional community that you meet with on a regular basis. And so at least twice a month. And you're having conversations of how do we grow? What obstacles are we facing? And so it's an intentional community. You're sharing your dreams with them of like, hey, where are you? What steps have you taken? And then the next move that you have to make is you have to have an inner circle. So this is kind of like where I come in is, you kind of picture a circle and then arrows coming into that circle and all four sides of it. And so the top you have to have somebody that's pouring into you. You have to have a coach or a mentor or somebody that's discipling you in whatever it is that you're trying to grow or learn in. But you also have to have a couple of peer-to-peer relationships. So these are the side-to-side relationships. If you can visualize that circle. So these are the arrows going out and in this inner circle. So these are people that know really everything about you. There's no secrets left. I mean, they're for you no matter what. And they are supporting you and holding you up even when you fail. And, they're celebrating with you and they're speaking life into you every week, every single week, and you're talking to those people. But you also have to turn around and be investing in somebody else. So this is where true fulfillment comes in life, is when I'm pouring my life into somebody else with no return. And so, I have to find who that is and say, you know what, I believe in this person and I'm going to pour my life into them regardless of the outcome. So I think those are the two key moves that everybody has to make in order to really move their dream forward, is surrounding yourself with the right people.
Wow, that just helped me right there. Like, I'm glad I have it. I can go back and write this down.
Yeah.
So what do you think holds people back from making that move? Because I know as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, people don't believe that I'm particularly introverted, but I'm thinking, that sounds like a lot of people to make that happen. And then on the create that schedule. Do you go out and you find these groups, or that's part of the thing that you help people work out?
Yeah, so I think you start by just looking around to say, who do I know right now? And so, obviously you and I met through a business,
yeah, we did,
kind of executive roundtable type group.
Mm-hmm.
And so I intentionally sought that out. I didn't know who Clarence Fisher was until I showed up at breakfast that morning, and then, you introduced yourself and I introduced myself, and then we just kind of hit it off, at those meetings. And so I sought that group out, and, I'm an introvert as well. So I do not like putting myself in places that I don't know people, but I force myself to go and meet some new people, and it's been awesome, and, I consider you a great friend, and I would have never met you if I hadn't have made myself uncomfortable to put myself in that space.
True. Wow. Yeah. So, what are some of the pitfalls that I know you see because you're talking to so many executives and entrepreneurs, that when they step out to realizing, living out their dreams, what are some of the pitfalls that maybe we need to avoid?
Yeah, so I really kind of come along with people that are already a lot of times in motion, as far as the executives and entrepreneurs they've already started it. Sometimes it's starting from the ground up. So it's just realizing, becoming aware of what their greatest needs are. And so that's where our assessment comes in. It really unpacks that. But I would say a lot of executives and entrepreneurs, their drive is so great that they don't understand or see the collateral damage that's happening around them, on their team specifically, because it's all about accomplishing the mission. And so they almost bulldoze people. And, I think a couple of the keys that I've really learned is I have to create margin, and I have to slow down to be present with people. And I think a lot of the people in my space they're going so fast that they're not present, and they're kind of using people to accomplish their mission. And that's just very unattractive, and it's very, honestly, hurtful to people. And then they don't want to be around you going forward. So the key is just learning yourself, knowing your voice, even your tone is so big. I remember when I first learned my tone and how I project and talk to people really makes a difference.
Isn't that weird? It's like I saw a meme once, and it said 90% of arguments are started because of tone.
Yeah. And here's the big deal on this is I would say over 90% of people in the world are incredibly unhealthy in their emotions. And here's what I mean by that is every volatile relationship happens because my emotions is I got offended, and so I'm responding out of anger or haste, or you're not going to talk to me that way. But the reality is we all have control over our emotions, whether you realize that or not right now. You may highly disagree with that, but it's very true. If you'll just take some time to breathe and relax. One of my best friends, his wife has her doctorate in psychology. And so she's taught me this trick is if I'll wait 20 seconds, I count to 20, like 1001, 1002, all the way to 1020. And then it's amazing what happens internally. It's like that initial emotion that was triggered subsides, and I'm able to think clearly and respond to the individual in an appropriate manner. And so I ask people all the time, this question is, what does it look like for you to not respond or react out of your emotions? And many times they just look at you like, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Wow. So learning to respond instead of react.
Yeah, absolutely. And just think clearly. And so you have to give yourself time and space to do that.
Man, that sounds so grown up, number one. And sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I find myself like I want to be mad, right? So It's like, I know I should just wait for a second, but what is that sick feeling of saying, no, I just want to be angry right now?
Yeah. And you're entitled to that, but go in your car and scream or go in a closed room. Don't take that out on, your team or your family.
Right.
Because nothing good happens there.
Absolutely. I think, and that's the key, right, is to, I love that, what you just said. There's nothing wrong with that, but get away and go experience that emotion yourself. Oh,
yeah. I mean, there's times I get in my car and I'm like yelling, as loud as I can. And, like I'm having this fit. It's like you're hitting the steering wheel and all those things. And that's okay. You still look goofy to the people that are seeing that. It's like nobody's hearing that but you.
That was funny. I can just imagine just seeing somebody in their car and you can't hear it, so you're just looking at it and they're throwing this big fit.
Yeah.
So 20 seconds. All right, great. I will use that. So give us an example of, I know I have, over the course of us talking, given a little bit of insight into how you've helped me, because I tell you, when the light bulb came on after so many sessions, and I remember I told you, I was like, oh, wow. I saw where we were going, and I'll tell you, and you remember I actually was like, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Again, because there's things that I know I should be doing more of, but then also just the limitless potential that we have when you realize you go through this kind of tunnel and you start coming out and you're like, oh my goodness, there's all this.
Yeah.
So what's another example of maybe how you've helped your clients overcome all these obstacles and succeed in living out their dreams?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is just understanding your needs. And so I'll give you the image of a tree. And so when you're walking around and you see the tree, you can describe that perfectly. You can see the leaves and the bark and the branches and, the acorns or whatever is associated with that tree or type of tree. But the reality is that tree is nothing without the roots. And all those are hidden. And that's what keeps the tree alive. It's what makes it flourish and grow tall and keeps it nurtured. And so it's the same thing for our lives. When you look at an individual, all you see is the tree. you don't really know what that individual needs. And so that's where we come along and we help you really define what those needs are. And we have a tool to really help you dive deep into those. Because the reality is this, is when your needs aren't met, your usual style becomes stress mode. And so you show up in this chaotic environment, and that becomes like your tree. That's what people see. And so when your needs are met, your energy goes up. And so you're able to even do more because you're actually living like your best self and your most energized self. And so that's a big piece of what we do. Obviously, we do a lot of business processes and things like that. But with the tool that we're launching today, you can actually have access to this. And it'll give you a great picture of some of your greatest needs in order to pursue your dream and live out, your best life.
And that's by going to jimmoss.com.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Great. So, Jim, what inspired you to do this, to be, into leadership, business coaching in particular?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I went into a Franklin Covey store, or Covey. I don't know how to say the guy's last name, but that doesn't matter unless he's listening.
No, he's not.
But I was about 20 years old, and I walked into one of those stores, and that's back when they had like their big planners, and that was kind of like the big thing to do. Now it's smartphones. But I walked into one of those stores, and they had this little metal ring in there. It was a paperweight, and it said Coach on it. And I was like, man, I love that. Like, that's what I want to do with my life. And I was probably 20 years old. And so I started asking the question, what's the one thing that I want my life to be about? And I really feel like it came down to this, is helping people discover their dream and live it out. And so for 15 years, I didn't have any tools. Zero negative tools. And I just began asking people, hey, I'd be like, if I met you, I'd say, hey, Clarence, what's your dream? And I would write it down. And so literally I've had stacks and stacks and stacks of these cards over the years of writing people's dreams down. And then I would just follow up with them from time to time to say, hey, how's this going? Where are you? And then I moved to Tulsa in 2009. And I had this epiphany. It was crazy. I grew up an athlete, was very involved in sports. Did everything in a small town. And it was like I woke up one day and I was like, what in the world am I doing? I don't have a coach. I've always had a coach, and a coach has always helped me improve and get better in the areas that I'm focusing in or wanting to hone in my life. And I was like, I need a coach. I've got to hire a coach. And so I started asking around, and there was a guy that had just moved from California to Tulsa, and he was an executive coach, and he invited me in to his life and inner circle, and it was called Summit Trek. And believe it or not, this is kind of unique. And so one of the guys in that group, it was a real small group of guys. There was 5 of us. And one of those guys was Kevin Stitt. And so Kevin is getting ready, hopefully, to become our governor for the state of Oklahoma.
Right.
And so we spent 2 years kind of going through this executive roundtable, and I was learning these tools from my coach, and was immediately turning around and helping others with those tools that I was learning. And then 4.5 years ago, I was sitting in Brookside here in Tulsa, and one of my students, I was in student ministry for several years along with, doing businesses and things like that. And one of my students from Houston was in town, and he was sitting with me, and he's very type A. Just so driven. We were at the table for 3 hours, and I asked him 3 questions, and he talked the rest of the time. And just kind of give you a picture of who he was. And so at the end of it, he said, what do I need to do to get your help? And I was like, well, man, I said, you should hire me. And it was like funny because like I didn't even have a business at that time. And so I leave the restaurant and I call my attorney and I said, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this tomorrow in the next 24 hours. Can you have that done? He's like, yes. So then I called our creative director and I said, hey, can you design me a logo tomorrow? I will pay you. Just get it done. He's like, yes. And then I called one of my other coaches and I said, how do I price this? I don't even know what this looks like. And he's like, you're worth this. And I was like, there's no way I'm worth that. And so I ended up asking for half, and the guy didn't even blink. And then I realized my coach was right. And so that's really kind of how this began. And I mean, it's shotgun start, you know. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and you know, we've been able to help a lot of people, and you know, just helping them truly discover their God-given dream and taking steps to live that out. And so
that is awesome. So when from seeing that weight of coach to, man, you did a lot of research beforehand and just asking people about their dreams. I think that's I don't know, you just did it intuitively, but I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, really did not know what I was doing. I was just asking people a question and trying to help them. I had nothing to offer them.
But I'm sure you saw all kinds of patterns.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That is cool. So between then and now, if you can think back, is there something that maybe that was, I don't know, is there something that maybe happened that early on that impacts how you do business today?
Yeah, man. You mentioned this earlier, but in my 20s, I love learning new things. And so I'm always reading. I'm always learning. I'm always asking questions. I learn from everybody, people that are of faith, people that are not of faith, people that just think completely differently than me. I love that because I'm curious. I want to know like what is driving them. And so two of the big things that really helped me is I paid a lot of money. I'm not going to tell you how much, but I paid a lot of money to learn how to trade stocks and options, even like a doctorate level program. And one of the biggest things in learning how to do that is they teach you about margin. And so if you don't have margin, your trading days are over. And it's the same thing in life. If you don't create margin in life, there is no way that you're going to be able to figure out your dream because your brain and your time are so maximized. You don't have time to think clearly and truly even create a path forward of what would be a next step. And so that's why you need to know what your needs are. You know, what are the roots of my life and what drives me to become everything that I was created to be. And then the other thing is, you know this because you know me, is like, man, I love to do things fast. I'm very entrepreneurial, and so I have to watch it because I walk fast, I talk fast. I can kind of like roll over people without even realizing it. And so slowing down has been so key and pivotal to me in my life, my present life. To be present with people. And so some of the things, what that looks like for me is I leave the office every day at 4:00 and I go home and the first thing I do is I pull in the garage. I, walk in the house. I've got 3 boys under 4. And so it is full gas at home. When I walk in the door, I mean, it is, Daddy, you're here. And then they're tackling me and it's on. And so I go and I put my cell phone on the phone bed in the bedroom and I don't look at it until I go to bed. And so, that's really helped me to slow down and be present. Just little things like that is you've got to be intentional with the people that you're with or you just won't do it. And my wife and I we laugh all the time when we go to restaurants And, people just live on their phones, and it mesmerizes me. I'm just like, man, like, are you texting each other, or like, what are you doing? Like, man, have a conversation. Like, that's where you're going to change your life and you really grow and discover some things. And we were at a pizza place a while back, and we walk in and we sit down with our family, and this older couple comes in, and they both pull out the iPad Pros, and they set them up across from each other. They jump on their iPad Pros, and I promise you, they did not say one word to each other. And I was just like, what in the world is going on here? It's like, do you even like each other?
Right.
And it was just, I think that's honestly one of our greatest obstacles, is just overcoming technology and social media, to be present. So.
Wow. So 4:00, you shut it down.
I do.
That is awesome. I remember one time we met, and you said, I'm going to focus on getting sleep.
Yeah.
Seems so simple.
Yeah. So I have 3 pillars of life, and they are rest, Bible, and exercise. That's all I try to do. And when I do those 3 things, everything else falls into line. And so I try to sleep 8 hours every night. The iPhone has this little wheel thing that you can kind of set your bedtime, and it even alarms you. And so I go to bed a lot of times at 8:45 because I get up at 4 many mornings, and that's just how I'm wired. I'm always cautious to say that, because like, I don't want people to think like that's what they have to do, because everybody's wired differently. We both have a friend in the chicken business, Chick-fil-A, that he's a night owl. And so it's like, he's embraced that. Like, he loves working late into the night, but I could never do that. Like, it would kill me to do that. And, but that's where you have to understand what your needs are. And you just have to own that and say, hey, this is who I am. I'm not going to try to change that, but leverage that, to use to chase your dream or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish.
That is funny. Every now and then I have to work super late in order to meet a deadline.
Yeah.
And I can send him an email at midnight and get a response back.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I don't doubt it.
Absolutely. Okay. So as someone is now they've listened and they're like, okay, I need to get a coach. I mean, what's the most important question that they should be asking themselves if they're truly considering going after their dreams?
Yeah, that's so good, Clarence. I would say a couple of key things is you need to interview them. You need to know that that they're just legit, that they've had some success with their clients. I personally don't do any marketing, for my coaching business because, the greatest marketing is referral. And so all my clients are referral based, as far as like my 320 coach clients. But the other thing is not only do you need to interview them, you need to make sure that they have a coach. So if your coach isn't coachable or not learning, that's a red flag, and you need to walk away. You also need to ask if you can speak with some of their clients. And so I have clients that I've set up to say, hey, would you be open to having conversations with people that are interested in this, and sharing with them our process that we've walked through or even continuing to walk through, and how it's been a game-changing process for you in your life. So those are the biggies.
Oh, go ahead.
So those are the biggies. Interview them, make sure they have a coach, and ask to speak with with some clients that they've helped.
Okay. I like how you said make sure that they have a coach. If your coach doesn't have a coach, wow, that is absolutely true. So if I am embracing myself and I'm saying, I want to go, how do I prepare myself to even do bigger than what I'm doing? Because it's a commitment.
Yeah. Man, you have to get so focused. And so I don't read the news. I don't watch a lot of TV. and I don't do a lot of social media. And so I'm very focused on what I'm trying to accomplish. I mean, I literally pour all my energy into that. And so that may sound very boring to you, but I'm also highly engaged in the outdoors. That's what energizes me the most. And so I create a lot of time for camping and hiking and kayaking. I meet one of my buddies regularly at 5 a.m. for a kayak, to go kayaking out on, a local lake around here in Tulsa. And so, you just have to create time for the things that drive your interest, which create energy. And so that's where our tool, the Berkman tool, comes in and really help you understand what are your highest interest needs. Because like when you begin to create margin and time for those, you're going to be able to do more, because you're going to be more energized and more engaged than you would of just sitting in the office and trying to crank it out. Some minor tweaks that I've made in the last several years is I don't sit. I do everything standing. I have a standing desk at home. I have a standing desk at the office, and I don't sit down. And so I feel more energized and awake working that way, for me specifically. So you just have to figure out what keeps you engaged like all day long. And I'll jump out of the office and I'll go walk, 4 or 5 blocks. And so I'll take a time of 10, 15 minutes when I'm like feeling tense or frustrated. So I'll go on a walk, come back, feel highly engaged because I got some outdoor time in, and I'm able to come back in and really jump into work and work strategically for the next several hours.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So how does someone find out more about Jim Moss, 320 Media, and how you can help them?
Yeah, so right now, this is really cool. We are launching our website today. So you can go to it right now, jimmoss.com, and you can actually purchase the Berkman Basics Report. And that's where I start with all my clients, is taking them through the Berkman and helping them become incredibly aware of what they need, what their interests are. And we just do a deep dive of what does this look like individually for you. And we create paths forward. And so, if you're into the arts, like how do you engage that? If you're into literacy, how do you engage that? Or you're a persuasive person and you're not making sales, you're probably going to be miserable. And so it's like you need to figure out, maybe there's a career change. And that's the other neat thing about the Berkman. It actually gives you there's 18 career options depending on how you're wired. That'll help you so it gives you like your top 6 of things to consider, of maybe there is a change. And so I always ask these 3 questions when I'm walking people through this process is there something that I need to remember? And the answer to that is yes. And so there's always something that I need to keep in front of me. The second one is there something that I need to communicate? And to whom? Do you need to communicate to your boss or your family in order to create space and time for you to pursue those interests that are going to drive energy and create them? And then the third question is there something that I need to change? Maybe there's a career change, maybe there's some habits that I need to change. And then making sure that community and that inner circle that I talked about earlier are aware of that and hold you accountable to that.
Awesome. So jimmoss.com, you heard it. Go there right now. I'll tell you, I've been through this process with Jim's coaching, and it has truly changed the way that I looked at things. It was just really weird to become unstuck and actually see that there's like, I hadn't even hit the tip of the iceberg.
You're just getting started, baby.
Right. Right. Oh, so thanks a lot, Jim, for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. It was an honor.
All right. So you know what we say, go out and own the block. We will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.